Hey there, Sherry Kirchhoff, If Eclectic Hope. Unfortunately, this next update is regarding the human rights violations and, the fight to keep my family out of captivity to our owner, Thomas Stetzer. So I am in the process of firing my lawyer because she hasn't been my lawyer. She's been my owner's lawyer. She has demanded the evidence and witnesses that I have that I've willingly provided, and she hasn't looked at any of the evidence, hasn't contacted any of the witnesses, keeps gaslighting me about sending release of information forms that I've sent, and about evidence that I've already sent her. It's been a nightmare. And instead of fighting for anything on my behalf, she has been hounding me relentlessly about doing visitation with, between my son and the owner, Mr. Stetzer. And so, in being, referred to my case by, the Human Trafficking Advocacy group who, has her, in their logs, it's like she's been supporting the trafficker instead of me and my son, and demanding that I submit my son to our owner's demands, which would put us both in, danger of our, of literally being killed by this guy. So it's, she's shrieked at me, denying the very obvious case laws regarding the well-being of my son, and regarding corrupt judges having their rulings reversed, as we've seen so many times recently since the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. All these judges and cops are getting, decisions overturned because of obvious corruption and bias in how they do their jobs. So you're going to see a lot in the following footage. The phrase, "oh, that's just the way it is. We see this all the time. Endless cases, similar to yours, and it doesn't go as they hoped." What that means is that this is so routine, disabled women being forced to comply with a rapist, with a human trafficker, with a dangerous criminal, with a murderer, that, they see this all the time and they don't do anything to support our rights to exist and to exist in safety. So you're going to see that, "oh, we see it all the time and there's nothing we can do." That's what that means. That there are completely different sets of laws for traffickers, for rapists, for predators, and for the property that they capture. The humans who are beneath society's radar because there's something not normal about us. Completely different sets of laws. They see it all the time and there's nothing they can do. So that's why this documentation is so important, because it is such a widespread problem. We're worried about the pandemic of COVID. We need to be worried about the pandemic of chattel slavery returning to the United States. Until the 70s, disabled people were locked in asylums, beaten, electrocuted, starved, otherwise tortured, doped up on medication, rendered out of our wits and out of our capabilities, imprisoned in shoddy facilities, and thusly tortured until we died of pneumonia at the ripe old age of 20. This was going on until like 50 years ago. And the governing bodies in our nation's society are still irked that the asylum program has stopped. That was a government-run program, by the way. This is just the next version. It's only 50 years or so after disabled people were finally freed from government-run captivity in unthinkable conditions. And the government wants to put us back. If a human doesn't own us outright in their homes, if a cripple such as myself decides that we don't want to be property anymore, we'd rather leave, if the owner wants us back and we refuse to go back, then we are taken into government-run captivity, otherwise known as jail, where cripples are killed quickly, efficiently, by actual criminals who do actually dangerous, bad things. So, nobody talks about how many wrongful convictions and wrongful jail sentences are put on disabled people. Nobody talks about that. Nobody sees it, nobody cares. It happens all the time. There's nothing we can do. Meanwhile, I have a refugee lawyer in 2 different countries who's able and willing to take our case as soon as we arrive in whichever country. So options are open, and we may very well need to take those options. So that's why I'm trying to run this business. So we aren't, somebody else's property again. So our fate isn't determined on whether I can get that minimum wage waitress job and how long I can work before my leg breaks down or my body breaks down. I need to do what I can do while I can in order to ensure a future for my son. So I got to keep moving forward, because the state of Colorado and the United States of Slavery and Rape want to drag us back until one owner or another kills us, whether it's the government or Thomas John Stetzer, serial rapist and predator since 1978. So those are my options. Have a blessed one.
Attorney Pesh saw the confirmation email and said that she wanted to get this meeting done sooner than a day before your hearing on the 18th. So she was wanting to know if you were available either today or tomorrow to speak about this instead of Monday.
Let me take a look at my calendar. I'm available tomorrow.
Okay, and same thing pretty much all day?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is plan right now for 11 a.m. I'm going to give a call back to Mariana right now and see how she's looking, but nonetheless, you'll receive either a Zoom invite from me or a confirmation email from me.
Alrighty, thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you for working with us on this.
Hey, you bet. I appreciate this. So,
Absolutely.
Thanks for reaching out. So, take
Yeah,
care.
most definitely. You too.
Thanks. Bye. Alrighty, and I'm back and just about to join the Zoom meeting with the Human Trafficking Advocacy group who referred me to this lawyer that I'm having extreme difficulties with. So, documenting the process of correcting her aberrant behavior and inaction in my case will help strengthen my refugee case outside the United States, as I'm demonstrating that even the human trafficking advocacy groups will send a slave catcher to a disabled mom, and they will pretend that they can't do anything to help in a case where there's extreme danger, and risk to our very lives if we comply with the court order and with our former owner. So, if even the advocates are sending someone who will serve the wrong side and pretend that that's helping us, what chance does a family like mine have here in the United States? So I am about to join this meeting. Here we go. Okay. Waiting for the host to start. Let's see if I can get this prepped in a good location. Okay, we're starting.
You're on your side.
Hey there.
Okay, well, now you're right side.
There we go. Let's see if I tilt the screen again. There we go. Okay.
How are ya?
Doing all right. But yeah, is anyone else attending the meeting?
Yeah, Marianne's just logging on. Mariana, sorry.
Okie doke.
Losing my mind today.
Hi there.
Hi, how are ya?
Good.
Can you see me and Sherilyn?
Yes, I can. Can you see everyone okay, Sherilyn?
Yepper, I got everybody.
Good. This is our first time meeting.
Yes.
Hey there.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, you too. So, how do we start this discussion?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, you've spoken with our intake advocate, Tali, right? I think earlier this week, and when you sent us that note, I wanted to make sure to look into this and see what's happening and see what we can do. I mean, I'm hearing that you have a lot of concerns, and it just sounds like such a difficult situation.
Well, it has been. Susan hasn't advocated for our family at all. You know, as I've been giving her, you know, a gigabyte and a half of evidence on a thumb drive and videos and all sorts of such of, you know, proving the trafficker's criminal activities out in the neighborhood, that he's not out employing himself, you know. He shows up at day labor once a week. I get $11.53 in child support a week, and that's the only legitimate work he does. What he actually does is sell drugs and weapons to the homeless community in Denver. And I've submitted a ton of evidence on that, and a ton of evidence of how he abused my son and myself and the other slaves he's taken after we escaped. You know, so this is a dangerous serial predator. I met him at a domestic violence shelter that he was volunteering at. You know, he came and donated a bunch of stuff to the shelter, and they let him in as one of their own. The only problem was the stuff he donated was because he became homeless when his property at that time's family rescued her. So all of a sudden he lost his free ride through life, and he became homeless living in a tent in Wisconsin. And you can't live in a tent in Wisconsin. Homelessness is literally a crime called vagrancy. They will arrest you and take everything you have. So he donated his stuff to PAVE, got to camp out in their parking lot or nearby, pretending to guard the place, and making friends with all the disabled women who had to stay there because, again, if we become homeless, we go to jail for vagrancy. So jail is a death sentence for disabled people because real criminals go there. And so, you know, with this wonderful, friendly volunteer guy telling all of us about how awesome Colorado is, how you can be homeless and not get arrested. There's Volunteers of America Soup Kitchen, there's day labor, there's housing lotteries, you know, the legal marijuana, medical to get me off the prescription pills that were killing me. You know, he lured all of us to Colorado under false pretenses of how amazing this state is. But, you know, having no opportunity to actually see the environment And so with that domestic violence shelter, they only let you stay there for a month. And in that month, you need to get your entire life together, which no domestic violence survivor is going to have their life all together and have a place with no housing lists and no community resources in 30 days. So we have no choice but to go back to our former abusers so they can deal with us for having the audacity to escape. So in the face of that, I left for Colorado. I packed what I could in my subcompact Pontiac and took off. 4 months after I arrived here, I was clean off opiates, but Thomas Stetzer was my owner. He owned my car, he owned my belongings, he owned me, he owned everything I had. He was my owner, and he started raping me at knife point every single day, at least once a day, for the next 14 months. I conceived Aaron very quickly. I tried to get birth control pills. I tried to tell the Stout Street Clinic what was going on. They gaslit me about the rapes because, oh, what's he doing waiting in our lobby then? Making sure I don't talk. So can you help me out here? You know, the system is ingrained to gaslight and ignore the problems of a disabled woman, and especially a homeless disabled woman. So I was given the birth control pills, but when I attempted to take them, I was almost slaughtered by my owner. And so I quickly conceived my son. And so because of that, the state of Colorado has deemed this able-bodied white man to be the daddy of the year, while he's endlessly pursuing his ownership rights over us, because I'm an artistic genius and my son, being disabled himself, we're both free money for this man to finance his weapon and drug trade and have the cushy life that he wants. He's a welfare queen criminal. Meanwhile, the court has labeled me as a welfare queen because I have no choice but to live on welfare. The business that I'm starting was doing great until COVID, and then, you know, everybody got the brakes slammed on them. You know, it's not just me. It's not because I'm not trying hard enough. I've multiplied my inventory by 10 times over in the past 10 years. And that was after being robbed for everything I had a year ago because of the organized crime going on in homeless coalition housing. They also target disabled people. They use the meth addicts, the pimps, the criminals, the blood gang to target disabled residents repeatedly and without consequence. When I reported the robbery and my minivan being destroyed and my jewelry being stolen, I had an appointment to set up my sales table. I was going to actually start making money. You know, when my son went back to school after COVID lockdown ended in 2020, I was going to start making actual money. But I got robbed and everything I had was taken. I wouldn't have any jewelry now if my street brother, if you've ever seen Trailer Park Boys, he's Jim Leahy's real-life doppelganger. Dude's cool, but he's permanently drunk. And, you know, but he spent his stimulus check, the next one, you know, in January of 2021, on my jewelry supplies to recoup my losses. Because when I reported the robbery, the apartment manager, while wearing my stolen jewelry, gobs of it, told the police that no robbery took place and she had no idea what I was talking about. Meanwhile, I showed the officer my Etsy listings and the very pieces she was wearing, and the police decided that a resident isn't as credible as a landlord when reporting a crime or alleged lack thereof. Right in front of their noses. My documentation of all that convinced the coalition that, hey, they're busted in their dirt, and they had one of their caseworkers get a moving van to help my family move out of their housing and into a privately owned building that accepts Section 8. So here I am right now. That's why we moved, because the homeless coalition was literally trying to kill my family. We had been subject to attempted murder 12 times while we lived there. and it was swept under the rug and covered up. Camera footage everywhere in the building was destroyed, wherever the camera would have been where the attack was, Any pertinent evidence was destroyed in all those cases, in all of us disabled residents, every single one of us. We have all been fleeing these buildings for our literal lives, us and our families. And we've been documenting and busting the coalition in their dirt, and so we moved. So I'm facing contempt of court because I disobeyed Jennifer Torrington, who wouldn't allow me to change my address. I had to change my address to not be killed by now. We've been here since July, and those criminals who've been attacking us are still there and haven't found us yet. So the whole point of all that is that the court's been slandering me and punishing me for just trying to survive. I have shown evidence of my startup business and my efforts towards helping my son's recovery, with therapy and all sorts of such. He's on SSI because of what we endured at the hands of our owner for his first, pregnancy at his first 4 years. We got out right before his birthday. And, so I have extensive evidence of why this man should not be allowed anywhere near me, let alone my almost 7-year-old baby.
Absolutely.
And Susan has responded to all that by gaslighting me. Oh, I don't believe you experienced that. I don't believe that's how that happened. And if your phone calls are recorded and you review that, that's exactly how you delivered your opinion. She has refused to look at any scrap of the evidence I've submitted. She hasn't contacted any of my witnesses. She's had 2 or 3 months of access to my case file and has done literally nothing with it, except for to make constant demands at me to continue with this visitation that's going to get my family killed by this guy. Handing us over like a Thanksgiving turkey. And so the only way she actually benefited the case was by pure accident, because the visitation firm she referred me to, the therapist actually understands what's going on. Anyone who takes more than 10.5 seconds to understand what's going on knows why these visits are dangerous and why we had to move across town.
You really think that was an accident? You really think that was an accident? I hand chose that therapist for your particular case because I knew she would do the most good.
After 2 months of demanding that I go to Carlos Center, who put my son in danger by disclosing the special needs clinic to the trafficker. Everyone in that place, staff, students, parents, are in danger now because Stetzer knows where they are. So, no, I'm not going to Carlos Center. You spent 2 months making that demand, and in a last-ditch effort, you applied out to ThriveWorks, or you said you did. I spent 2 weeks trying to convince them that you'd even contacted them about my case. So
Cheryl,
don't.
This must be so overwhelming. I mean, I'm so sorry.
You sent a slave catcher at me.
And for years, this is a lot to handle, and for years. I want to share that I'm a lawyer also. I'm not practicing, but I first started working on human trafficking years ago. And I was working with clients, and this is such a hard area because it is so unfair. People have been through the hardest things that no one should be through. And the systems are broken. And the legal systems are broken. And as a lawyer, I feel really outraged about that. And that was one of the reasons that I started Alight and to start working with other lawyers, because in the context of this broken system, these awful things happening, how hard it is, sometimes impossible to find justice in these systems, we still want to try the best that we can. And my goal for today is to try to support you with finding the best outcome that's possible for this situation. All we can do is think about the best thing we can possibly do with what we have. I agree with you completely. All those steps all along the way are wrong, and they're outrageous. And there's no reason for us to live in this way where this guy isn't getting punished and you're not safe. But this is such a hard process, and we want to be there with you. And I know you have concerns about Susan working with the trafficker, and you're concerned about some of the decisions that have been made along the way. And that must feel so scary. And that must feel so frustrating. Because you really need someone on your side.
Yes,
I
there are very
can
cut
assure
and dried case laws here regarding the well-being of the child being placed above the wishes of the human trafficker, and regarding the rulings of a corrupt and
Definitely in the
obviously biased judge being disregarded and thrown out.
law.
And I got gaslit for that. She screeched at me for half an hour because I don't know what I'm talking about, and nothing that I experienced actually happened, and she doesn't believe any of it.
I never said that to you.
Yes, you did. Yes,
No,
you
I
did. You
Okay,
called
well-
and screeched at me for half an hour and telling me that you didn't believe a word I was saying about what we went through because you didn't bother
Sherilyn,
looking
I
at any of the
never-
evidence.
I never said that. I
Yes,
said I
you
believed
did.
you. I said I never doubted what you were saying. I apologize
No.
for you having to go through
When I
this.
called you out
I'm
for
sorry I remember
gaslighting,
you.
you went as sarcastic as possible and was like, oh, this must have been so terrible for you. Oh, I believe you. You used all the sarcasm of the known universe like Judge Torrington used when she finally stopped calling me Mrs. Stetzer 2 years after the divorce.
Sherilyn, I want us to think about what's the best option going forward. And I'm a lawyer too, and I know you're reading something in the law and you know how something's supposed to work, but it's just, the law is so different than reality, and the family domestic relation system is one of the most unfair areas about it.
It's not
just
going to
is.
become more fair if we comply with dangerous circumstances and get ourselves killed. You feel outraged. I can't feel outraged when I'm dead. My son can't feel outraged when he's dead. And that's the goal of the state of Colorado. The homeless coalition literally sent people to attack and rob and try to kill us. And the court is too, with Stetzer. He's been
I hear
bragging
you.
in court about stalking us. And Torrington rewarded him for that.
You want things more fair and you want to feel safe. Is that right?
Of course,
to be
the
more
laws
fair,
are
you
in
wanna feel
place
safe.
to ensure safety of families like mine from predators like Stetzer, and I'm repeatedly told that, oh yeah, those laws are there and it's so unfair, but we have no choice but to comply because
One of the hardest, as I said, one of the hardest things about working in this area is seeing people that deserve justice, that have been through so much, having to deal with the BS of the system. But it's still a reality. I mean, a lot of us are idealistic too, but the laws really do play out differently in the court. And I can assure you that all the lawyers that we're working with, we would never put a survivor of trafficking in harm's way with an attorney that's not fighting hard.
she isn't, though. She hasn't reached out to one witness. She hasn't looked at one scrap of evidence. The only action she's taken in my case is harassing me and hounding me about doing visits before our court date. And the visitation firm that she desperately connected me with so I might actually contact them took 5 seconds to understand what's really going on here, and this is a terrible idea to do these visits for 1,000,001 reasons.
Sherilyn, I never said you should do the visits. I said you should simply contact the Carla Center and do the paperwork. Nobody said you had to go through with the visits, okay? But I needed to show the judge that you were having some sort of following the law, okay? I never told you to have those visits.
Yes, you
I
did.
said contact them to start the paperwork.
You told me that we were going to have the first visit before the court date, that was your goal, and that's what you pushed at. You didn't look at anything in the case except for forcing a slave to obey its master.
Sherry Lynn, in my area is family law expertise, and I can only do so much. I cannot file charges against him for his crimes. I cannot get involved with your housing. I cannot get involved with the other people that are around you that you feel are threatening your life. I can't do anything about those. I can't get that to stop. So what I was hired to do, or what I agreed to do, and what you retained me for, was to deal with this parenting situation. And the posture that your case was in when I got it was, you're this close to going to jail. Okay, and I understand how unfair and wrong that would be. Okay, so what I was trying to do is to make sure that that didn't happen, while simultaneously protecting your son from having to even deal with his father. Okay, because I was up against a court order that said supervised parenting time. I was up against an order that said, I know he's a bad guy, but I can't award no parenting time. So the best I can do is supervise. That's what the order says. That's what Torrington said when she made the ruling. Now, I understand your feelings about her, and I don't doubt that she didn't hear you, okay, because that's how you got that court order. So what I was trying to do is take the posture of this case, back it up a little bit so that you don't go to jail. And by backing it up a little bit, I was trying to get you to file an application with the Carla Center so that I can tell the court that you are not obstructing this, okay? And then simultaneously file this motion for therapeutic parenting time, which is where the situation should be now. Because we talked about how supervised parenting time, all they do is watch. They don't intervene. And what you need is somebody that can potentially intervene. But the first step to even getting therapeutic visitation is for the court to award it, okay? And the court hasn't done that yet. But I went ahead and set it up for you so that we could get ahead of the game and show the court that parenting time should not happen. And that's exactly what happened. I got Kim's letter today, which said it would be a terrible, horrible thing for this parenting time to happen, okay? Which is exactly what I wanted, okay? I wasn't trying to put you through hell. I wasn't trying to put your son through hell. I was trying to keep you out of jail. I was trying to put your case in the posture so that he can't keep dragging you back to court demanding parenting time, okay? I wanted to put in place that he has to do this, 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 and this before he can even think about asking for parenting time. And you and I both know he's not going to do any of it. Okay, such as individual therapy, such as a mental health evaluation, such as clean urine drops, all these things that we could put into place before we even get to thinking about reuniting him with his son. Okay, but I got cut short of doing that because you were frustrated with me. And I will take the blame for not communicating clearly with you, although I thought I was. You should not be walking away from our conversations feeling bad or feeling that I'm not on your side. And I understand that what you want is for him to go away and not be a part of your life and for you to be safe and raise your son. Okay, but I am only dealing with this one little sliver of your life. Okay, because that's all I can deal with. And I was trying to set you up in that posture, and you saw it differently.
You pushed Carla's Center at me for 2.5 months before finally mentioning, oh, wait, there's a therapeutic visitation place that exists in this universe. Here, let me give you their contact info. That was like right before Christmas. So that's, waiting through 2 holidays to get hold of them. And then when I finally did, somebody reached back to me, they said they had no idea what I was talking about with you reaching out to them in my case and all that. So that took another week of trying to confirm, who I was and what was going on here. And then, setting up the intake meeting, they waited until the day before the intake meeting to send the paperwork, which I filled and sent back an hour and a half after I got it. And in reading that paperwork, Kim sent me a text, hey, I've got a bunch of questions, can we talk? And she asked me, I've been looking at this, and why are you volunteering for visitation? She was under the impression that I wanted to do this. So no, I had to explain to her that no, I'm being forced by the court, and if I don't comply, the Jim Crow Judge Torrington is trying to throw me in jail, and this other judge, I need to hope that she takes the 5 seconds to look at my evidence and witnesses that you have not done in 3 months. You spent 2 months pushing Carla Center down my throat before mentioning this unicorn of, ThriveWorks. ThriveWorks has proven to be more benefit to my case than you have. All you've been doing is harassing, badgering me,
Sure.
gaslighting me,
Representative
and not
Summer.
looking at any of my evidence and witnesses that could prove the corruption of the judge and the danger of the trafficker and prove that the well-being of the child is to stay as far away from rapey McRapeface as possible.
Carolyn, I, I don't want to talk about the details. I want us to think about the best plan. And I think I'm hearing, I mean, it's obvious, like, I think one of the problems is this case, it's a game. But to you, it's not a game. To you, this is your life.
And you're playing me like a pawn.
No one's playing you, but it's a game. It's an unfair game. But meanwhile, you're a person and you have a son and you have a lot to deal with and you don't feel safe and you're not sure how to get through this. And it's very, very hard to be around other people that are treating it as a game. But it's the system, it's bigger than any of us. That's why we're trying to find support as we go through it. And as I'm here, I want us to think of a plan going forward, because we want the best for you, the best outcome of what's possible. These are not going to be perfect outcomes. These are not going to be fast. I mean, you've been working so hard and for months and months and months on this, and Susan joined, and she's devoted so much time and so much of her effort also on trying to figure this out. This is complicated. This is really complicated, and judges are not easy to deal with, and this is not going to be an easy way forward. I want to make sure that you're okay for the contempt hearing, and one of the things that I want to offer you, if this is relevant, if you're interested in better understanding if maybe the criminal justice can go after him, we can try to set you up with a lawyer to consult with you about how that would work. I have to say, the criminal justice system, I have to set your expectations, just like the family justice. Like, these systems are hard. They're never going to be, they're super, super hard on the individuals that are most affected. But maybe you can get a better sense of, could there be an investigation into him? What are your options? But that really is a separate thing. There's only a few things that can be handled in the near term with a case that's shaped. We want to make the best decision for next week. So what do you want to do?
Well, I tried all that with the Rosandom Center and with endless police and caseworkers, since the beginning, since we were first taken. And, disabled people are in the way, homeless people are in the way, and nobody investigates anything, nobody does anything. I finally busted the coalition with, with all their stuff, with a bunch of video evidence and emails back and forth and everything. The only way to stop oppression is to bust the grift. You can't stop oppression by being like, oh, okay, we'll obey, we'll just go and do this, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's not. The only way you're ever going to make any progress is if you demonstrate, hey, this is wrong and this is why.
From what I understand, you're at risk of going to jail next week. And so are you willing to try to bust oppression from jail? To send a signal by being in jail? Do you think that will change things and make them more fair for you and your son?
Bringing my son to a visit where this guy has already had people waiting in the bushes for us at visits. He's already jumped out into traffic in front of my car right after a visit.
But tell me.
Putting us in this certain danger in order to avoid another certain danger is not productive. It's, will I obey the Jim Crow judge, or will I let them kill me? You're telling me that there is no escape for slavery except death. And I'm telling you that's bogus.
I'm not saying anything. I was asking you a question.
You're asking me if it's worth me dying in order to not put us both at risk of death at
that's
a
not what I
visit.
asked.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what you asked.
No.
I have the choice between obeying the court and putting my family in danger, or not obeying the court and putting my family in danger.
What are your options? What do you want to do, and how can we support you in it?
I wish you would have sent me a lawyer who bothered looking at evidence and witnesses, bothered doing the minimal except for trying to force me to comply with a corrupt system. You cannot change oppression with compliance. That only extends it and strengthens it. And everybody knows that.
I hear you. I hear your frustration, and you're not happy with the way things were going. I'll let you know we had a lot of trouble finding a lawyer for this case. This is a lot of work.
I've done the work. I have the evidence. I have the case laws. I've done the work. All I need is a lawyer to explain to the judge, hey, this is what's really going on here, Your Honor.
Well, from our side, with a hearing coming on and a 3-day weekend, and seeing how difficult it was to find help. It's very, very difficult to find qualified family lawyers who are willing to work on this for free. It is almost impossible that we can find you anyone else. However you go forward, it's your choice. And we want to support you, but it's from our side, I think the best possible thing we can do is to figure out a working relationship to get the best outcome for you next week. Because I don't know what else we can do. Tell us what else we can do.
The minimal? Look into this case minimally instead of just forcing me to comply with oppression and putting my life in danger.
We need a lawyer who has time with your case to look into that.
Susan had 3 months, and all she did for 2 of those months was push Carla's center down my throat. She wasted all of that time while not doing her job or looking into the tiniest factor that's actually at play here.
How can we make this work?
Well, you screwed me over to the best possible way, The only benefit was with the visitation person who actually understands, and she was pulled out of the hat at the last possible second. If I would have known that ThriveWorks visitation existed in October, that would have been great. We would have had this letter and all this done months ago. Instead, she waited till Perner Christmas. And that was an attempt to, like I said, force me to do the first visit before the court date in order to show that I'm a good little slave and I'll obey my master and put my family in danger. You appointed a slave catcher to my case. What can we do now to fix this?
I assure you, we never assign attorneys to work with our clients who would put them in a dangerous situation.
You literally did. She crammed Carla's center down our throats after they already put my family in danger and everybody else at Front Range Behavioral.
So before we disband, we have to decide what to do. And you tell us, because this is your life. What's the best we can do in this crappy situation?
Would Susan be willing to actually present the evidence of how harmful this guy is to my family and how corrupt the judge was in making her rulings that this entire case is based on? I had Kyle Rittenhouse's judge for 2.5 years. There are very certain case laws about, the well-being of the child and corruption in law enforcement and judges and all that That's why these laws are in place. Is she willing to actually show this or not? Is she willing to take 2.5 minutes to look at my evidence, talk with my witnesses? That's what I've been needing.
Sherry Lynn, how do I say this? There isn't much I can do about the corruption, alleged corruption of Torrington.
There isn't anything you're willing to do. There's a big difference there.
Do you want to put it that way? Then fine.
Thanks for the admission that the
and
lawyer that I was sent to help me flat out refuses to do the very minimum. Thanks for admitting that.
That's not why I was sent to help you. I was sent to help you regarding this pending petition to hold you in contempt. I was not sent to help you, get corruption charges against Torrington. Okay? And that's where you haven't been able to separate those two. Okay? You are very upset with me for not looking into your witnesses or whatever you think I haven't done, because all that goes to Torrington. Okay?
And we see this a lot, because traffickers are connected to people in power, other powerful figures, the politics. This is really hard, and you've been going through this for years and years, and you're a fighter, obviously, because you're still standing. And I've heard this type of stuff from so many different survivors. Sometimes the traffickers are connected, politically, everything like that. But the court is a game.
Can I just say something?
And you have to do the best strategy in that moment.
Torrington is gone. She's not your judge.
So you have this opportunity to show a new judge what's actually going on here. You have a clean slate and you're refusing to pick up the chalk.
As far as parenting time, yes, we have a clean slate. Getting this assigned judge, magistrates, is what's going to be good for your case. But I cannot go in front of this new magistrate and try to demonstrate that Torrington was corrupt and she should have never entered the order in the first place. Okay? What I can do, and what I have been doing, although you disagree, is present to this new judge that he shouldn't have parenting time because it will hurt your son.
Kim has presented that. You presented her to me as a last-ditch effort to make me obey Massa.
I'm sorry you feel that way. I really am.
It's completely obvious through all the correspondence and everything. You're pushing Carlos down my throat while you finally provided actual solution at the last possible second. And you didn't even provide that solution until after you got the case continued, while you're still working at the office and making all these phone calls when you're sick and contaminating everybody.
All we have to figure out, what's the most important thing next? What's the most important thing to you? Sure.
What do you want to do, Sherry Lynn?
I want to present the evidence. I want to present the evidence of the dangers that this trafficker presents to my son.
But you understand that this judge is not going to charge him with a crime. You understand that this judge is not going to punish him for his wrongdoing, because she can't.
She has every right to decide that the best interest of the child is to cancel the parenting rights of the predator who raped the mother into conceiving the child.
She can't cancel those rights.
Yes, she can, according to that case law that I sent you.
Parental rights. Okay, the best we can do is put the hoops in place to try to make him be a better parent or a better person to benefit your son, which we know he's not going to do. And if he doesn't jump through those hoops and isn't successful and having a healthy relationship, or being healthy enough himself to be in a position to have a healthy relationship, the parenting time isn't going to happen.
He's been practically living at Carlos Center, whom you've crammed down my throat. If I would have obeyed and gone to Carla's Center, we would have had several visits by now if we wouldn't have been killed at them.
It's up to you. This hearing is coming up. It definitely won't answer all the questions and all the problems. What's the best way to protect yourself and your son right now?
Well,
That's the way I think about it.
if Susan's unwilling to demonstrate the dangers to my son and myself, then I'm further ahead representing myself because I have the actual guts to present witnesses and evidence. If Susan isn't going to be effective at all in the manner that I need her to be effective, then she's not doing me very much good.
I can't bring corruption charges against Torrington, which is what you want. That's what all your witnesses.
I need her rulings to be reversed. I need her rulings to be reversed, and it's obvious that they should be.
You modify them, okay? If the boat has sailed, it's too late to try to reverse it, okay? But you can modify it, which is what I've been trying to do. But you are stuck on reversing it, proving that she was wrong, and that this should have never happened, instead of finding a clear way out of this, which is to modify the orders.
Okay, so modify the order to something that's safe and get this trafficker out of our lives.
That's what I've been trying to do, but you don't see it that way. You are still stuck with getting rid of this order, and you're still stuck with me not doing what you think I should be doing to get rid of this court order. That was never my goal.
Of course it wasn't.
Because I can't. Nobody can.
You can't modify it to anything reasonable. You sent one person as half-baked after you had the hearing continued. If you hadn't played sick and worked out other cases and gone to the office and all that instead of doing the hearing date, then I wouldn't have even known about ThriveWorks.
What do we do?
Susan's fired.
What do we do?
Susan's fired.
Okay. It's not that simple, Sherry Lynn, because the judge has to let me out. Okay. With a pending hearing, with pending motions, I can't just quit. I can't just get fired. The court has to give permission for me to withdraw from your case. I don't know if the court's going to do that, but I can certainly ask. Okay. On your behalf, since you have just fired. But I'm going to tell you what else I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I had planned to do at the same time, which is respond to his allegations and make it as clear as I possibly can from a distance what I would do in court, which is telling the judge that he didn't do what he was supposed to do to even get supervised parenting time. He's had a problem with the last supervised parenting time, and now we have a therapeutic supervisor, which even though you didn't grant it, we went ahead and did it anyways, to say this shouldn't be happening, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. It's up to you what you're going to do. And it's up to the court as to whether or not she's going to make me stay in your case and represent you. I don't know what's going to happen. Given that it's so close to the hearing date that you're firing me, I don't know what the judge is going to do. I imagine that the judge is going to not make you have an attorney that you don't want and will continue it. But she could enter a million different scenarios, a million different orders. So I don't know what's going to do, but that's how I'm going to handle this, Mariana.
All right then, and I'm going to the Blue Bench office on Tuesday during the hearing. My advocate from there will be with me, and my sister Becca is going to pick up Aaron from school, so, and that's another thing.
You want this, Sherilyn, to create this opens up a lot of uncertainty.
You've left me with the certainty of a lawyer who has never discussed she's never discussed anything with me other than Carla's Center until all of a sudden, in overtime, she brings out this Hail Mary play of the ThriveWorks And
Carolyn, I'm very sorry that you feel this way. I am very sorry that you are experiencing this, and I'm even more sorry that you think I contributed to this. Okay, and I'm sure I'm not perfect, because I'm not. But I have done my best to represent you given the factual situation. But what you're doing right now is you're seeing me as the problem. So I need to get out of the way.
you are part of the problem. You've been
Right,
sitting
I know
as a
you're seeing me
roadblock
as the
instead
problem.
of
I
actually.
need to get out of the way so that you can not see me as the problem and do whatever it is you're going to do. Okay? And whether that means representing yourself or finding another attorney to represent you, I don't know. But you're seeing me as the roadblock. So I will get out of the way if the court lets me. And I do wish you the best. And I will put you in the best possible position I can in front of this court before I leave.
I need a flashlight. I provided the batteries, the evidence for the flashlight to show what's actually going on here. And she's refused to put the batteries in the flashlight for 3 months.
Before we leave, I just want to check one more time, because we can still go back and we can still figure out how to work this for next week. I just want to ask you one last time. Are you sure you want to fire Susan and start that whole process of the judge deciding what to do next? Or do you want to try to make the next hearing work together? And you tell us, and we will go with whatever you decide right now.
You have sent somebody who has wasted 3 months of my time.
We both really want the best for you, and you tell us what that is. It must feel awful right now.
I'm further ahead representing myself. The reason I've been seeking out a lawyer is because a lawyer would be able to call out a judge, oh wait, you asked her a question, actually let her answer it. Or hey, wait a minute, this is actual evidence, you might want to look at this. That's what I've needed. And what I've gotten is somebody who has just disregarded everything I've gotten. I'm further ahead on my own than I am with Susan. You wasted 3 months of my time, when I could have had somebody who actually was going to do the minimal to work the case. Instead, you sent me somebody who wasted my time and tried to steer me in an unsafe direction before pulling a Hail Mary in overtime. What kind of game of football you think a cripple's going to be able to play? You sent me a slave catcher.
So that's...
I'm done with your...
I need to go. Like I said before, I'm a roadblock, and she is unable to see anything but me and how horrible I am. So...
I really have no further business with your agency if this is what you're going to send my way. You have demonstrated that you're complicit and compliant in the face of unthinkable corruption and wrongdoing. And if you're okay with this, then you can't help me. Thank you for wasting my time. Jim Crow appreciates your service. I do not. Goodbye. And this is why we need to leave the United States for a country that hasn't legalized the human trafficking of disabled people. These are the people who are in place to help families like mine escape these unsafe situations and find safety and freedom in a new life after captivity. And these are the very people who are trying so hard to make me understand that the best possible option is to comply with oppression that is trying to kill us. The best possible thing I could do is just be okay with it. Smile, keep my head down, and be a good slave, and submit myself and my son to the owner that we escaped from 3 years ago. Best possible solution. No, it's not. That's why we're going to Canada. Peace out.